100 company, so an $800 billion company. Not only is it in Europe and here in the States, it's also in China, it's also in Mexico, it's in Hungary, it's pretty much all over the world. So just a really old, really stout financial company. When it comes to what we do, it's everything from IRAs to annuities to mutual funds to life insurance, long-term care, college plans, 7702, money management, personal private pension plans, 401ks, 403bs, and a whole host of other things. So what that means for you is whether it's the kid that's fresh out of college that knows they need to be doing something but not quite sure what, we can help them. To the family that's got a couple of kids that are trying to prepare for their college, we can help them. To the family that's got a couple of kids in college that they thought they prepared for them, we can help them. To the family that's feathering their nest for their retirement, to the family well into their retirement, we can help them. On the business side of things, whether it's the small mom and pop that can't afford to offer benefits to their employees, we can step in and offer them to their employees on their behalf, and their employees never know the difference. All the way up to the huge corporations like Southwest Airlines, which we just took over their 401k, and every company size in between. So there's not really anybody we can't help, but we do like to work with a specific group of folks. When it comes to how we help them, Transamerica could very easily say, I mentioned that I used to work for a captive firm. We are non-captive here. So here's what happens. Somebody comes to me and says, Julia, here's where I am, and my financial paradise is over there. I'm definitely walking in that direction. I just don't know if I'm going to make it or how long it's going to take me to get there. If you could just build me a little roadmap on the quickest, fastest route without any detours, and then put me in the vehicle that's going to get me there the quickest, I appreciate it. That's what I do in a nutshell. Transamerica could easily say the only vehicle we're going to allow you to put people in is Transamerica, but they don't. Because I'm not captive, I can place people wherever it is most advantageous for them to be, whether that's Nationwide or Prudential or Voya or Franklin Templeton. It doesn't really matter. This is just a small sample of the companies that we partner with. There's actually 300 of them. And we have about 3,000 different solutions for our businesses and families. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, so to speak. Just to put that in perspective, I often tell people if I were to take up running, which I would never ever do, but if I were, and I went to the Nike store and said, hey, listen, I need a good shoe, I'm going to be doing a lot of running, there's really only one brand of shoe I can walk out of that Nike store with, which is what? Nike. However, if I go to the Foot Locker and tell them the same thing, they're going to fit me with whatever shoe fits my foot the best, regardless of the brand. So you can think of us as like the Foot Locker of the industry. It doesn't matter which one of these is the best, that's who we're going to place you with. So you don't have to worry about that. Does that make sense? All right, go ahead. When it comes to who we take care of, hi, how are you? Welcome. Don't pay attention to that screen. There's a pet ghost in there turning it on and off, and it will give you a headache, so just these two. When it comes to who we take care of, I did mention there's a specific group that we like to focus on. Here's the reality. Most financial firms focus on the top 5% of earners in this country. That's what we would call the million and billionaires. We like to refer to them as the whales. We call that whale hunting. We focus on the other 95% of the population. Because the reality is if our economy takes a turn for the worse, or the market tanks again, or things get really tough, the whales seem to always be okay. There's plenty of fat to trim, they will survive. It's middle America that really suffers through those times because that financial education just doesn't trickle down to the masses. So that's who we take care of. See, what we found is jobs just aren't as certain as they used to be. And as a result of that, raises are not guaranteed like they used to be. And as a result of that, people are not saving like they should. And as a result of that, debt is high. As a result of that, so is the bankruptcy rate. It is middle America that's really suffering. See, when I said that we do things differently from the rest of the firms out there, I like to describe that as, do you guys all remember when we were in grade school, there was this kid that kind of marched to the beat of his own drum. He was kind of a weirdo on the playground. Nobody played with him because he was a weirdo. But then he grew up to be like the Bill Gates kind of guy. We all wished we played with him just so we could figure out where his head was. Okay, we're that kid that marches to the beat of our own drum. The rest of the industry thinks we're crazy for the way that we approach things. Because it doesn't really matter if I sit down with somebody that makes $1,000 a month or $10,000 a month. The reality is they all have the same problem. There's more month than there is money. I sat with a nurse not long ago. She makes $90,000 a year. She has no children, lives with her mother, and still lives paycheck to paycheck. I know, right? That's what I said. Do you know what I could do with no children and 90 grand? I'd be all right. But it just goes to show, if you think that you're the only one in that boat that has more a month than there is money, you're not. It doesn't matter where you fall on the spectrum of income. And when I look at where people's income is going, it's pretty much always the same. About half of it is going to living expenses, which is just the general cost of living. That would be your utilities, your mortgage, the food, just the general things it takes to live. Another quarter of it goes to that man we have to tell ourselves is our best friend because he's in our pocketbook more so than our children. And the last quarter of it goes to that four-letter word that we love in this country, which is debt. The problem is, when I sit down with folks and ask them, have you ever sat down with a financial professional, I oftentimes hear no. And it's typically for 3 reasons, which we'll go over those in a second. But when I ask them, well, what do you think, or what would you like to be setting money aside for, what do you think I hear most often?
Vacation.
Absolutely, that's my hands down favorite one, travel. I'm going to put some money away for travel. What else? Think about it. Retirement. Sometimes it's just to get out of debt. You need to be setting up money aside to pay off some things. Sometimes it is good old financial independence. Julia, I need to be able to swipe the card without checking the balance first. Sometimes it's for major purchases, like a home. Anything else you guys can think of? Sometimes it's family. Somebody in their family is going to be relying on them for financial means. Ladies, what else am I missing? College.
Yes, college.
Whether it's to pay off their own college, fund their children or future generations' college, or both. But if this is what their pie looks like, and any one of these things or any combination of these things are people's financial objectives, what is missing from here to fund this? Savings, right? They say, oh, I forgot to tell you, Julia, I am saving like 1 or 2 or 3%, this tiny little smidgen, which you and I know is not enough to fund any one of those things, much less a combination of them, which most people have a combination of them. And if you went to a traditional firm, here's what you would be told. You need to cut out of your living expenses to fund those things. Let me translate that for you. Hey, listen, can't go out to eat anymore, and that vacation business, get that off your mind, because there will be no trips, and whatever car you're driving, you just drive that little puppy until the wheels fall off, and if the kids are playing sports, only one child can play at a time. We can't let both, and in fact, we want you to live as lean as possible and use the difference to fund your financial objectives. In fact, don't even live. We just want you to exist and use all the extra to fund your financial objectives. And the crazy thing is people will do that because it's a responsible thing to do. The problem is how long do you think that really stays in place? Because don't you feel like you would really be feeling punished by meeting your financial objectives, right? It just does not last. Now, if we were all whales, that conversation would go completely different. Hey, when I say cut out of your living expenses, what I'm telling you is you can't have a yacht. You just need to settle for a sailboat, and we'll use the difference to fund the rest. Pretty simple, because there's a lot of fat to trim. With Middle America, that's just not so. So, at Transamerica, we just find ways to reduce taxes and debt and find a bigger piece of this pie that somebody didn't even know they had. They didn't even know it existed. If they didn't know it existed, they probably wouldn't miss it to fund these things, right? But we don't do that either. We use a portion of it to infuse it back into their lifestyle and use the rest to fund these things. That's called positive reinforcement, because they're living better than they ever had with money they didn't realize they had while still getting their financial objectives met. Do you see how long those could stay in place? Positive reinforcement works. How many of you have children? Does this sound familiar? If you do this, you get this. Remember when we were potty training those little urchins? They're still potty trained, aren't they? It works. So, if people are living better than they ever had with money they didn't realize they had and still getting all their financial objectives met, there's really no reason for them not to be in place. Does that make sense? See, this whole process is called a financial needs analysis. Do you know the going rate for a financial needs analysis in the market? It's about $300 to $3,000 depending on the firm. Now think about that. If you were a whale and you had $1 million, what's $3,000 to protect it? Drop in the bucket. If you're Middle America, you're just trying to save $300, much less give it to you to tell me how to do that. You see? Guess how much we charge for those financial needs analysis? Nothing. And the rest of the industry says, Julia, how is that possible? How do you guys make money then? Go back one screen.
Go back.
Here's how. Remember these guys? If I build a financial roadmap for a family, and let's say Nationwide has the best account to get them to where they're going, and I go to Nationwide and say, you've got what they need, I'm going to open an account with you. Nationwide says, thank you. That's business we wouldn't have seen otherwise. Here's your finder's fee. They pay me. So my client's money goes just for them and in their account. Does that make sense? Trust me, their pockets are pretty deep. They can handle it.